the radical as one who is committed to human liberation, who does not become the prisoner of a circle of certainty within which reality is also imprisoned. On the contrary, the more radical the person is, the more fully he or she enters into the reality, so that knowing it better, he or she can better transform it. This individual is not afraid to confront, to listen, to see the world unveiled. The Moses of our Torah portion this week finds himself becoming this radical. We meet him entering into a world in which Pharaoh has decided to hatch a cunning plot to deal shrewdly with the Israelites so as to hide from them the full extent of their oppression. After Moses returns from exile in Midian and the beginning of his campaign to free the Israelites much later in our story, he is rebuked by some of the very Israelites he wishes to liberate. Ramban, the renowned 13th century Spanish rabbi, suggests that the oppression of the Israelites was all arranged to be done subtly so that they would not realize that the violence was being directed against them as a people. This explains why the Israelite foreman told Moses, "May God look upon you and punish you for making us loathsome to Pharaoh and his courtiers, putting a sword in their hand to slay us." Paulo Freire identifies this same tendency amongst oppressors to project their own desire for violence upon the targets of their violence. The manufactured system of belief justifies the oppression by asserting the expectation that the oppressed themselves wish to enact the very violence that is being enacted upon them. This ultimately leads to the oppressed internalizing and upholding the narrative of their oppression. Moses, unlike the other Israelites, was raised in Pharaoh's family. Moses had been spared the experience of oppression of his Israelite kinfolk. In his privileged position within the royal household, he was able to escape the prison of certainty that accepted Pharaoh's arrangement of oppressive Egyptian and oppressed Israelite as natural, or maybe even necessary. On the other hand, the Israelite foreman who had condemned Moses identified readily with the oppressor, even going so far as to condemn the one who would confront and dismantle the structure oppressing them. After being blamed by the Israelite foreman for Pharaoh's horrible treatment, Moses turns to God and asks, "Why did you bring harm upon this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has dealt worse with this people, and still you have not delivered your people." God responds to Moses, saying, "You shall soon see what I will do to Pharaoh. He shall let them go because of a greater might. Indeed, because of a greater might, he shall drive them from his land." God's response echoes Freire's contention that the oppressed often internalize and accept their oppression as natural. Only by showing them that Pharaoh was not the natural ruler, only by lowering Pharaoh to a human level in the eyes of the Israelites, would they be able to experience the possibility of liberation. Moses' role here is that of the radical liberator, charged by God to lift the Israelites up and out of their context of oppression. Moses' experience as Israelite and Egyptian unveiled the Pharaoh for what he truly was, and fully revealed the injustice in the enslavement of the Israelites. This perspective placed him at the nexus where God could push him to do the hard work of educating and unveiling the truth to others. We Jews today have inherited the Torah of Moses, teaching us, too, to remember the insidiousness of oppression that can thrive both externally and internally. Our own histories and present experiences of both oppression and liberation provide us a vantage point from which to see this dynamic unveiled before us. Our responsibility, like that of Moses, is to use our own perspectives and privileges to further unveil the realities of oppression we exist within and that exist within us. What has your experience as a Jew in our America done to provide you a specific vantage point on oppression? What possible narratives of oppression have you internalized as natural along the way? And how can you use your family's story or your own experience to unveil these narratives of oppression we all live within today for others? We indeed live in a world benighted by systemic oppressions, which continue to lead to expressions of turmoil and violence of all kinds. Each of us stands at our own juncture just as Moses did, able to see things others cannot. As we begin this new year of 2021, may each of us find within us the strength to believe that a greater might is waiting to drive forth liberation for all. If we ourselves are willing to unveil the difficult realities we see and experience, just as Moses did. Let us all say together, "Oh, hard times come again no more," not only with our words, but by our deeds. And let us leave none behind as we work towards a world of liberation for all. Shabbat Shalom.